The sign just said I'm live. I don't know if you see that, but yes, I am live. I'm Terry McGill. I'm in Portland, Oregon, and this is episode 27 of Who's Your Neighbor? This show started 27 episodes ago. That's 27 weeks or so. And it was because of COVID, the double-edged sword, the yin and the yang. So at the beginning, when I first started being aware of what I was hearing and seeing on social media, was that there were people who were sharing a house, regardless of, whatever the situation was. And as long as one or both of them were gone during the day, they could make it work okay. But when both of them were in the same house all day long, things deteriorated, and there were a lot of bad things that happened. And I was concerned about that. And then I began wondering what I might be able to do about it. And I realized that we don't know who our neighbors are. Where I grew up, we did. But that was, last millennium. I know it's a bad pun, but it was a long time ago, like 50 years. And the world was different. So some friends and I decided to do something about it, and we came up with the concept of Who's Your Neighbor? And so what we do to promote collaboration, harmony, co-creation, and mutual support, I invite people to be a guest on this show. And it has been a wild ride. I am so glad personally that I started this, or we started this. There are people behind the scenes that are helping, engineer, producer. And tonight, we are in for a treat. I say we because I'm going to be I won't say guinea pig, I'm going to be the subject, and you're going to get to watch a world-class palm reader tell you things that I never knew, and I'll learn more tonight. And so I would like you to, with me, welcome Ronell Coburn. Hello, 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 and I'm so glad that tonight has finally arrived.
Me too. I always love doing podcasts and interviews and radio shows and all those sorts of things. It's always a lot of serious fun.
So would you give our watchers and listeners, our other guests, just a background? When did you start doing this, whatever it is that you call it? And, how many people have you done it with? How long you've been doing it?
Well, time has flown. It's been 24 plus years now that I've done this full time.
Wow.
As my full-time living, profession, life. It's not what I expected to be doing, that's for sure. I've got a master's in writing and a bachelor's in also creative writing, literary studies, and psychology. But looking back, I think, fiction and literature are the earliest forms of psychology, and storytelling. It's all about motivation and what will the people do next and everything. So I've been at this since I took my first training at the end of 98, and then I took my professional, full year immersive training in 99, and I started my business full time at the beginning of the year 2000. I've looked at something like over 20,000 people's hands so far, plus all the prints that students bring to me. What else was in your question? There were 5 in there, so.
Wow.
People are surprised when I meet people at a party and they ask me what I do, and I tell them that I'm a hand analyst. That's what you said, whatever you call this. We call it hand analysis, so that people don't automatically think about predictive palmistry, because this is non-predictive work. Your hands very much tell you about who you are, who you want to be, where the troubles are between
So let me
where you
interrupt.
are now and where you're going to. Yeah, yeah.
Let me interrupt right there.
Yes.
Not only who you are, but who you want to be.
Who you want to be at your highest potential.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Tell
Yeah.
me more. Tell us more.
The way hands actually work, I like to say, they don't actually give you lucky lottery numbers. They don't tell you how long you're going to live. They don't tell you who you're going to marry, tall, dark, handsome, stranger, all of those things that people tend to think about. That's those of us who do this get to sort of re-educate people all the time about what their hands are about, even though people sort of have a fascination with the idea of hands being predictive in that way. But your hands actually tell you things that are much more empowering and much more important. The thing that's really unique about this system of interpreting the hands for who you are is that we look not just at the shape and the lines in the hands, but we look at the fingerprints. And your fingerprints are formed 5 months before you're born, and they don't change throughout your life, which is why law enforcement, it's been found out that law enforcement can use them to identify who you are physically. It's known now that fingerprints are tightly connected to DNA. It's been known for a long time that fingerprints and the entire hands are very tightly neurologically connected to the brain, both directions, hand to brain, brain to hand. I happen to be a gesticulator, so it becomes very obvious that hands are used as a very direct expression of ourselves and our brains. So the fingerprints go beyond identifying us physically, and they're the part of the hands that tell us what our purpose in life is. And our purpose in life is about what gives us, each of us individually, really deep meaning. Another way I like to describe it for those who are in the psychology world is it's your transpersonal psychology. It's a core of you that goes beyond your personality traits, which are what we think of when we think of psychology. All of that is in the rest of the hands. The shape and the line systems in your hands are actually your personality psychology, and everything about it when you think of psychology. Your emotional style, your thinking style, your communication style and preferences, your orientation to family and groups and community and society, how you relate to yourself at all levels, body, mind, spirit, as we say, emotionally, how you relate to yourself. And this system in the hands has also your skills, your talents, your aptitudes, which are not the same as a life purpose, because you can be good at something, but it's not satisfying in a deeper way. I like to say, hey, I'm really good at washing the dishes, and I actually enjoy cleaning things. And my hands indicate that, yes, tidiness is a good thing for me, and that I would enjoy it and enjoy the work involved. But that doesn't mean I want to be cleaning things all day, every day. It wouldn't give me a deeper sense of meaning, right? But our aptitudes and our talents are very important things, as are our values and our goals. And a lot of those things show in the personality system and the shape and the lines. So we've got these two systems. We've got a soul psychology, we call it, or a life purpose psychology in the fingerprints. And then we've got our personality psychology in the shape and the lines. And they're both systems that are operating within themselves all the time. But then, of course, they also interact with one another. People are complex, I want to say, in case you haven't noticed. And a lot of us are sort of a bundle of contradictions. And we have to learn how to be the personality that we are, working with the upside of our personalities and working with the glitches, the downsides, the things that we drive ourselves crazy and other people crazy with, so that we can be the best person we can be. But then we want to express our personalities through our larger life purpose, that thing or that consciousness really that gives us a sense of meaning and satisfaction and really knowing who we are. So there are these systems we've got. I like to call the fingerprints the sort of hidden second psychology that people don't know about and don't know how important it is, because we can do things that line up with our talents and our aptitudes and our skills, and that's really good and can give us a lot of satisfaction. But unless it's aligned with the life purpose and being used to support and serve the life purpose, then there's always something missing. There's always something missing. So
I'm finding myself wanting to look at my hands and it's like, what's been going on here that I don't know about?
Well, we can look at your hands. We've got them here to take a look at. And right away, different people have different levels of self-awareness. And a lot of the people who are interested in personal growth and self-discovery know a lot about themselves already, right? And they're just hungry for more. And a lot of times when I read people who are already self-aware, I don't necessarily, something new may or may not come out of it. But what definitely comes out of it is names for things, a structure, and an understanding of how all the moving pieces work together so that you can work them better. And then, of course, there may be some things that are a surprise. And sometimes I read for people and they scratch their heads over a piece of it and say, who, me? And over the years, it's funny when somebody they know is with them, sitting next to them or sitting behind them, rolling their eyes. Because, yes, of course whether it's something really great, like a great potential, or it's something that's a challenge. And the person saying, I haven't done that since I was 5 years old, and their sister's rolling their eyes behind them. So the hands are full of a lot of information, and it'd be fun to take a little bit of a look at yours, given the time you've got here today, Terry.
I'm fascinated by it. I've been introspective for so many years.
That's for sure. So even saying
you say like that, like you're reading it somewhere.
Well, yes, even saying introspection, you know that about yourself, but it'd just be fun to show you real quick where that shows in your hands right away. And it has to do with the thumbs and the position and the posture of the thumbs. If you notice your thumbs, they're closer to the rest of the hand, which is about sort of how much territory you want to be involved in. You're not I want to own 50 acres and manage it sort with thumbs like this. You would want to work in a smaller and more a personal environment, perhaps one-on-one with people more than anything else. This is called the angle of opposition. And when your thumbs are closer to your hands, you want to work in a smaller territory. And I like to say that people who have big, wide open 90-degree angle thumbs are kind of like the person who wants to climb all the way to the top of Mount Everest, and that's what's important to them. Big territory, manage a lot, maybe manage other people, because they want to do something that's so big it takes a lot of other people to accomplish it. And that's got its pros and cons, somebody with a big open thumb. But as the thumb gets closer to the hand, you want to work in a smaller territory, and yours are sitting in a place where, okay, if you were the sort of person who loved mountain climbing, you might want to make it up to camp 4 or 5. There are 5 camps on Mount Everest. And work, be in that up high, but not at the top. You don't want to necessarily push that hard for that kind of goal. But, maybe you're the medic for the team who goes to that top camp and is there working in that small space of the tent to help people when they come off the mountain if they need help, right? Smaller territory. So a container garden can be the most amazing thing in the world. A 50-acre spread or a whole country could be the most amazing place in the world. They're upsides and downsides and challenges to both arenas and the size of the arenas.
I'm going to
Yes.
be looking at people's hands to see if their thumbs stick out more than mine now.
Thumbs are really fun because they're something you could look at as a distance very easily, right? You don't have to have somebody open their hands and try to examine fine detail. Thumbs are really great that way. In addition, your thumbs, the face of your thumbs are looking over toward the little fingers. And the little finger side of the hand is the inner world side of the hand. So introspection is a perfect word for that. Introversion even, not that you might not have the ability to be social, but this is going to be about taking direction from the inner world first, your own inner world, the inner world of your feelings, the inner world of your ideas, and that's where you're going to want to look first, is into the inner world. So introspection, introversion, extroversion are personality characteristics that show right in the hands. And so, yeah, anybody out there too, look at the people you know. Keep your eyes open if you're watching a movie. Even when somebody's playing a role in a movie, it blows my mind how everything is always absolutely right on, right down to the rings characters are wearing. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, you've got tight thumbs, we call it. Low angle of opposition, below 45 degrees out from the rest of the hand. So very, very inner world type of person. And even further, your left upper thumb is very large here. A lot of it is showing up. On the right hand, it's much smaller. And so this would be more like out in public, you're probably a little more hesitant around sort of being controlling with other people.
You know, I had to look at my thumbs, and I see the thumb prints there, and it's like it's really true. I thought I might have made a mistake when I rolled the prints, but no.
Oh, no, there's no such thing as a bad handprint. And on your live hands, the upper thumb on the right and the left may look much more even than they do in the prints. You can read off the live hands, you can read off prints, you can use both of them in a session as well. They both say everything that needs to be said. But when you're in a more private, with yourself, with people you know, inner circle, you'll show your determination a little bit more. You'll be a little more outwardly directive, I guess is a way to put that, than when you're out in a very public space. With even the difference in the printing of the upper thumbs. That's the willpower department. Also, that's the crown chakra in the hands. You can see the entire chakra system in the hands, which is another amazing thing about the hands. So introspection. What do we want to look at next? Hands are really interesting because they're sort of speaking a language that anybody can learn. And when you read hands and you look at a lot of hands, they're sort of like things that say, "Look at me," to somebody like me who's the reader. Just like if you read a book and you open it up and you let your eyes fall somewhere on the page and something stands out to you. And, in a magazine, you flip it and something catches your eye and you decide to start there. Hands are kind of the same way. And with you, I really, beyond your thumbs, what caught my eye, more than one thing did, but for starters, this big star under your left middle finger caught my eye. And this is a gift marking.
It's a what?
Gift marking in your hands. It's a marker that's a gift, a really special talent that really wants to be used. And this is a gift of resourcefulness. Can I spell resourcefulness? Talking and writing at the same time, never my forte. This is a gift of being a master of resourcefulness. So I'm looking at other things to add in here about your particular type of resourcefulness. The shape of your hands indicates that you're very much an ideas person, somebody who likes to think, somebody who's very interested in new, hot, exciting ideas. And I think your particular brand of resourcefulness will center on having a lot of hot ideas and being really interested in new kinds of thinking and wanting to share it with other people. People who have this sort of master of resourcefulness tend to want to help other people with what they know, in your case with what you know. Somebody else, it might be that they're good at cooking and they want to cook for people, or they're good at building things and so they're always helping people fix material things, but you're an ideas guy. You're what we call an illuminator. This is in your your overall hand shape. So you've got a real passion for thinking, a passion for learning about things, and then a passion for communicating about them. You want to light up the dark places sort of in the world with new ideas and new thinking and a lot of creative thinking. And I think that's really for you, your particular brand of resourcefulness.
So I'm curious because when I look at my right hand, there's that same area on the right hand, there's some lines there that to me look somewhat similar.
Yep, and you could have a gift marker in the right hand or the left hand or both hands. The bottom line is once you've got it, you've got it. But here's, and when you've got more of it, the demands of the gift on you are higher. So there's like, oh great, I've got a gift. Oh wait, I've got to serve that gift. It's not here to serve me. I'm here to do it. And if and when I'm not doing it, or I'm not doing it to the level it wants to be done, the gift gets unhappy. And it penalizes you. Oh no! Wait, I thought I had a gift. It was only a great thing. If I don't use it, it gives me a hard time.
So how might that show up?
So the penalty, it's called, or the real challenge when you're not living up to the gift's potential and what it wants, and that's a really big star in the left hand and in the right, then this gift gives you a hard time by you can end up helping other people with, in your case, your hot ideas. But everything just flows through you and you don't necessarily get anything in return from other people, and maybe not even think you should expect anything in return. This gift has issues of being valued. You being valued for being the resourceful person you are. And so you can find people asking a lot of you. And maybe it's hard to say no, or it's hard to ask for something in return, whether that's asking to be paid, asking, expecting to be thanked, expecting to be appreciated, expecting to be respected. There are all kinds of ways that people can value what we have to offer them, right? All kinds of ways that can happen, from money to appreciation. So the penalty for this is sort of, you find yourself being resourceful for everybody else, and you don't find yourself getting valued for it appropriately in return, which is something that actually ties right into your life lesson that's in your fingerprints, which is straight up, what am I worth? But specifically for you, what am I worth sort of out in the world? Out in the public arena. So I find it very interesting. You're a hot ideas guy doing this streaming show, right? Do we call this a podcast? What do we call these things these days? And you're putting it out there where people can benefit from it, right? And of course, I imagine this is something you like to do because you get to engage in hot ideas with people, and the communications of passionate, exciting, creative ideas with people. And then, you're putting it out in the world, which is great. The question for you with this gift marker of the Master of Resourcefulness, and then your life lesson of what am I worth out in the world. It could be too easy for you to just sort of give out too much for free at times and not get valued for it enough in return. And again, free can mean all kinds of things, not just money, right?
Wow.
Um,
So
yeah,
what about the fingerprints related to this?
well, you've got those two systems, right? And then they interact with each other. So here in your personality system, you've got this special talent, very special talent marker about being extreme. This isn't just everyday resourcefulness. Somebody could ask you probably a question just about anything, and you'll know a little something about it, and at the least will probably know where to point them in the right direction to get more information, right? Think about what consultants do when they've got information that people want and people pay for it, right? They've got resources. You're incredibly resourceful. But then you've got that soul psychology, that life purpose psychology operating, and it just so happens that your lesson is very related to this same issue of what am I worth out there? How do I ask for it? Can I ask for a raise? If people aren't appreciating me in the everyday ways of being thankful for what I can provide, what you can provide for them. Again, appreciation, respect. Then, you may be coming to a point if you find that, again, all your good stuff is passing through you to other people or somebody in particular, but they don't offer you anything in return in terms of showing they value it. Well, I think it could be extra challenging for you to decide to say, okay, I'm not just gonna, run myself out and be empty, helping everybody else, but not really getting anything in return for it, right? That it's sort of a one-way street where you can get drained. And they can, be ungrateful, ungrateful people, right? So your life lesson is very much about, finding and knowing your own worth and being able to appropriately expect that when you offer your good resources, that people will value them and value you in return in whatever form is appropriate to the interaction, right?
So this relates to boundaries then?
I'm sorry, relates to what?
Boundaries?
That could be, boundaries are technically sort of a different arena, but absolutely. Boundaries, this is middle finger stuff. We're talking about the resourcefulness, the valuation issues. Boundaries are more a function of the first fingers. These are the power fingers. And your right power finger is short. Your left one is a little short too. And so, yes, you could be a little, the word that's coming to mind is timid, understated. What's another word? Where you just kind of don't, it's not as easy for you to assert yourself to say, hey, I'm offering you my resourcefulness all the time and you're not respecting and appreciating it. What gives with that? Or you deciding, yes, to make a boundary and just say, Of course, being a resourceful, creative, hot ideas, who wants to share it guy, when you put all this together, you gotta think for yourself about who is my audience, and thinking about who your audience is, maybe even, and whether somebody wants your resources before you offer them. And I haven't spent a lot of time with you, but you seem to ask first before doling out advice or information. And that's a very appropriate way to hold your boundaries so that you don't spill your pearls before swine, so to speak. That's a saying I haven't heard in years, but it's what's coming to mind, where you're just giving out your good stuff to people who aren't really the right recipients of it, right?
And, related to that, what I've found over the years is that if they aren't ready for it, they won't appreciate it.
They won't. And so asking before offering your resources to people, asking if they're interested, saying, I know a little something about that. Would you like to hear about it? And then being, on an everyday way and even a professional way, then being quite detached about what they do with it or don't do with it. Because in a way, people don't like to be told what to do. And when we, even if they've asked for our advice, they still might not like being told what to do. And the more detached we can be, like, take it and do what you will with it, then the more likely they are to actually consider it and consider taking action on their own behalf, utilizing the resources that you have offered to them, right? Because then they feel empowered in themselves rather than disempowered because somebody's telling them what to do.
And what I do when I'm working with individuals is I give them options. You
Yes.
want it. You mentioned this. You can
Yes.
do this, or you can do that, or you can
Yeah.
do the third thing. What do you feel serves you best?
Yeah, and you can brainstorm 5 other ideas about what to do for yourself that suit you better, right? Exactly. Now, you've got all this resourcefulness, and you've got that challenge of, making sure that you get valued for the value that you offer. But what builds up? We all have a life lesson, and it's something we have to work with lifelong, darn it. But hopefully we work with it and we keep gaining more and more facility with it so we can navigate it better. And the reason for that is what we need to learn from our life lessons, something that supports us in our life purpose. So, what's the whole point of having a life lesson? They're hard. The whole point is, we learn from it and keep learning from it because it's sort of like the gas for the car of our life purpose. And so your life purpose, are you ready? Drum roll over here.
I can hear that.
Are you ready? I'm asking permission.
I'm ready.
Your life purpose.
Shoot it. Go for it.
You've got 2 life purposes. And the first one is two. People can have 1 life purpose, they can have 5 life purposes, and then it's sort of, they all add together. You've got 2. And your life purpose, when we give it a name, is the successful healer or the successful inspirational communicator. And the successful healer is somebody who does ultimately need to get paid for inspiring and empowering people to grow. Helping people gain a more accurate understanding of themselves, a more accurate understanding of their relationship to the world, even a more accurate understanding of things that need help out in the world. So it's a life purpose. The healer is very much a life purpose about inspiring, empowering people to grow and getting better perception of who they really are and how they interact with other people, right? As well as often what comes with that, gaining a better understanding of the people and the world around us as well. The healer is a communications life purpose that's about, first and foremost, very deep inner communications. And then the success piece actually are the thumb life purposes, and they're very much about being self-determining, about being appropriately independent, and about taking for you those hot ideas, which are an intangible thing, right? They're not like a pen that's been created in the material world. They're an intangible thing. And so you're here to take the intangibility of your hot, resourceful ideas about growth, personal growth, and then turn it into something tangible that helps put the roof over your head and the food on the table. In a way, they're very different life purposes. The success life purpose is sort of very worldly and very much about the material world and having enough control over it that you can really be very self-determining in your own life. Whereas the healer life purpose, that it's about an inner, very deep inner world process, like on the opposite side of the spectrum. So it can be very interesting when you've got two life purposes, one that's a very worldly one and one that's a very inner world, shall we say, sort of more spiritual life purpose that's about deeper hidden meaning and what's going on deep inside, which are very intangible things. It can be very challenging to figure out how to take something so intangible, passionate, hot, resourceful ideas about personal growth and inner communications and inspiration, and then turn it into what puts the food on the table and the roof over the head and the clothes on the body, right?
And that's been the story of my life for 20 years or so.
Well, I would suggest that it goes all the way back to 5 months before you were born when your fingerprints got formed. And then the life lesson is here because that's about what am I worth in the world? What are my hot, resourceful, inspirational, healing ideas worth out in the world, on the marketplace, right? And about the challenge of asking for pay, as well as appreciation, respect, all those other things, but specifically asking for pay so you can succeed as a healer, as in succeed ideally as it's your sort of full-time life, right? Now this could look like different things. Did you mention that you were a real estate agent?
I used to be.
You know, I find a lot of real estate agents, when I get them as clients, they're using their healer. It's their healer that is making them succeed if they have the healer life purpose. Their ability to interact with people. Also, when people are buying property, selling property, you know, everything can be so tied into their personal lives and what's going on in their personal lives. Sometimes it's a growth. I can finally afford to buy a house and, oh my God, I'm a first-time home buyer and it means so much and I have so much to learn, right? And the real estate agent can really help the person through that process and the excitement of all of that, because buying a property then is a growth thing for them in their life, right? Other people might be selling a property because the people are getting a divorce, a really hard transition to be in, where the real estate agent needs to be very sensitive to what's going on and be able to listen very closely and work with the dynamics of everything relationally that's going on. It's a very relational business. And so the healer, a lot of people who are in professions like real estate have the healer somehow in their hands as a life purpose or as a gift marker. And that's really what is creating their success, is their ability to work with all of the relational things going on, more than the business transaction of filling out paperwork and mortgages and, you know, all of the administration stuff that's going on. So your healer would have been serving you very much in that profession as well, operating in that context.
One of the interesting things, just it goes with just what you were saying. I taught at Portland Community College for, I don't know, 6-7 years, how to buy and sell a home successfully. And
that fits beautifully. And then you got paid for that, and you were inspiring and empowering people to grow and to navigate a lot of emotions, right?
The course itself was a gift. It was just free. But about 25% of the people that went through the classes wanted me to be their realtor.
That's a perfect, of course, I didn't think about that possibility, that yes, basically you were sharing your ideas and then you got your clients through it. very practical. That's very much working, would also be working that life lesson, right? Of, having to, in the practical sense, find the people who will value you and pay you for being the successful healer
And
in the particular context of real estate, right?
One of the other aspects of it in terms of tactics or, how to be successful is that I found when I was in real estate for the first couple of years that I would talk to 100 people who had some interest in buying or selling a home, but only one of them would actually go through with it. So when I was teaching a class, I'd have 25 to 40 people in the room.
Yes.
So it was a much better use of my time.
Absolutely. Also, all the things that happen when a group of people are together. And people who aren't in sales don't understand those numbers you're talking about so much. Anybody who's really in business has to pay attention on a practical level to where are my prospects coming from, right? How do I find the right prospects who are a match for what I'm offering and who I am? And yes, and then how do you do the practical communications that get people who are the right fit for you out of that group of people to work with you, so that then, they get the value of your resourcefulness and you get paid for your work and make a good living at the same time.
The nice thing about the working with the people in the classes is that they would self-select.
Isn't that, it's so interesting how that all works when you have a room of people in front of you. Yeah.
They would just come up afterwards and say, could I ask you a question?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the next step?
Yeah.
And can you help me?
Yeah.
Like, gee, let me make time.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, just talking about that way of working your business when you were in that business, it's a really lovely mix of all of these things, right? You shared your hot ideas and your resources and probably did it in quite a passionate way. And then the people in the room who were a match for you naturally moved over and worked with you, right? Because who wants to go look for a bunch of other real estate agents if you're a match right there? Perfect. That's a really nice combination of everything here where things could work very well for you that way.
One of the things that
people who will value you, right?
One of the things I've thought about for years, now that I'm doing Akashic record readings and energy healing, is to connect with that subset of realtors who are out in the woo-woo land, because many are not.
Of course not. You're going to get all kinds of people being real estate agents. It's a you get a very broad range of personalities overall too, as long as there's just enough.
I want to give a shout out to one of my friends who's way back east, Kerry Conyers, and he's saying, yes, this is a very interesting topic, and he likes it. And Kerry, boy, I would recommend that you connect with Ronell. And there's that wonderful Michelle, our producer. So Ronell's website is lifepurposenow.com. And so her email, that's a simple one, Ronell, 2 L's, 2 E's, at lifepurposenow.com. And I know we've only scratched the surface. We haven't talked about the 8 combinations of fingerprints, for example. I saw one of your slides.
Let me show you this other slide real quick. So a lot of people ask, the 2 most common questions are, how come I haven't heard of this? Well, it's relatively recent. The fingerprints were just figured out in terms of this interpretation of them in 1979 by a man named Richard Unger, who founded the International Institute of Hand Analysis, where I study and I'm a certified teacher and blah, blah, blah. But the second one is, well, how does it work? And of course, we can't teach you the whole system in 30 seconds or less, but people usually like this explanation. So there are 4 basic types of fingerprints that are possible. The first one is this red one here. It's called a whorl because it's round. It just makes a circle if you look at it. I'm not the best at drawing on screen. It makes a circle. The second basic type is a tented arch. It's got a tent pole in the middle of it, and it doesn't do any circling. It's just got a tent pole, and sort of the fabric of the tent goes up and over the top. The next one is called a loop. It comes in and it says, I'm out of here, and it U-turns and gets back out. The ridges are all open on one side. It's asymmetrical. And then the fourth basic type is an arch, just up and over, doesn't do any fancy footwork. It's the closest thing to a 180-degree line. So there are 4 basic types. And these any of them can combine to make subtypes. So you can have a whorl loop combination. It's a loop, but it's got sort of an eye inside of it. So is the easiest example. There can be combinations. So there are 4 basic types and then all the combinations that they can make. Then you've got 10 fingers. Most of us do. Every now and then somebody doesn't, and we have to work with that. But most of us have 10 fingers, which means we have 10 fingerprints. So we have to look at all 10 of your fingers, and you can have any combination. You could have 10 of one of these types. You could have 2 of one type, 3 of another, 5 of another, any combination. A lot of people will assume, well, I'm going to have all 10 of the same fingerprint. No, you can have any combination. So we have to look at all 10. We have to look at how many of which types you've got, how many of each type, and what fingers they're on. And then we draw a little fingerprint chart that looks like this. It looks, you know, esoteric, but it isn't. The round one is like the round one up here. They're just stick figures for the fingerprints. So we draw a print chart, and then you've got the right hand, which is the public hand, and the left hand, which is more the private hand, inner circle, me with myself and with people who are very close to me. And then each finger has set of fingers, has a meaning. The thumbs are about control. The first fingers are about power. The middle fingers are about responsibility. The ring finger is about creativity, individuality, and the pinkies are about communications. So if you have, you do, Terry, you've got a right thumb life purpose. You've got a control life purpose. It's about gaining control over the practical material world. So again, it's about success because of that. And we put that the right thumb. It's the public control finger. So it's how I control my world, particularly my work, so that I can do things like put food on the table and the roof overhead. So there's actually a very organic combination of things that happen. If it's the right hand and you've got the right index finger, has what's called the highest ranking fingerprint on it. In this print chart here, we do have the thumb as a life purpose, the index, the middle, and both ring fingers. So this would be the leadership life purpose. This is public power. The right hand is the public hand, and the index fingers are about power. So public power is about leadership, public impact and influence on other people in the world around you. So this is sort of how a quick snapshot of how the system works, how the fingerprints, how we interpret them for the life purpose and life lesson. And there's a third element called the life school. It's sort of like the water everything swims in, the classes you see everything through. We didn't talk about your school because there's only so much time together here. So that's sort of just a really quickie on how do these work. And then the rest of the hands, people have different hand shapes, different line configurations for the personality psychology, and we look at those for the personality psychology.
And then after 22 years and 25,000 analyses, you probably have a wisdom that isn't even always at the conscious level. You just have I'm guessing that you just have a sense when you see a set of prints that, oh, okay, this is this.
Well, it's kind of everything together. So there is a very strict interpretation system. So anybody who has learned this system is gonna get the same life purpose, life lesson, and life school out of the same set of fingerprints, right? And the same things out of the personality psychology. That's sort of the science of it, right? But like anything, there's an art to it that happens. The vocabulary words I choose, what my eye picks out of the hand, the themes that I see the hand building. Another hand analyst might too, but maybe they end up focusing on this set of themes that you've got, and I end up focusing on that set of themes, and they're all correct, right? And there's also just the sense, I think, like anybody who does any form of counseling long term, you talk to a lot of people, you hear a lot of people's stories, you see the patterns that humans are engaged in, right? We all are a set of patterns, basically. But I've got my combination of them, you've got your combination of them. So yes, there's a recognition that happens. I think it just happens much more quickly, and it really comes from having done a lot of sessions and a lot of teaching and heard a lot of people's stories about different things over the years, you know. So that really, in a lot of ways, now I meet somebody, and if I was still so inclined, after a while you stop doing this, it's like, oh, I bet they've got this in their hands, right? Because you recognize those patterns that humans have in their personality, you know, through their behavior. You kind of work it backwards from people's behavior that way. You can. But mostly I do people, really everything is distance-based for me and has been for many years. So people send me their handprints and I haven't met them. I haven't talked to them. It's completely cold that way. And a lot of times, until recently, because again, a lot of people haven't been very hip to web conferencing. It's been around a lot longer than the last couple of years. You know, when I started out, distance sessions were over the phone with a cassette recorder plugged in. So I couldn't even see the people, you know. It's just literally your hands are your instruction manual for your life, literally.
Wow.
It's just right there.
We could go on for another hour or more. I'm just noticing that we have the record now for having the longest session, and no, it's because of it's fascinating and it's in depth and let's see, can the print be like a mandala? I'm reading something that somebody put in here.
Asking, you know, that's a very nice way to put it. I think each human is a mandala. Each person is a universe unto themselves in a way. And I really feel that way when I'm looking at the hands, that I'm looking at this universe of the individual person and their entire sort of ecosystem, as well as through that you can see, you know, the kinds of experiences they've had, and okay, it's likely to have been with mom or dad or this person or that person. You know, you can just kind of see all of that in there, and in that way, I don't know, I like that idea that we're kaleidoscopes or mandalas, and we've got these complex systems with all these facets, and everybody's system is really, really beautiful to me. I used to think if I could help people avoid their life lesson, but now, no, we need our lessons. Our lessons are best friend and the fastest means to doing our life purpose. So I see beauty in our life lessons too. They're just what make us so human, and probably the only thing that would humble us. If we didn't have one, we'd all be in trouble.
Well, Ronelle, I want to thank you so much for this time tonight. I'm not the only one that has found it fascinating.
Good.
And I'm going to give a shout out to Carrie to connect with Ronelle. Carrie, this is going to open up aspects that you're just beginning to wonder about. I know Carrie a little bit.
Hands are a trip because they give you new perspective on your entire life. Not just now, not just going forward, but, you know, on how things went in the past and give you a different, just such a different, can give you a really different perspective. That's
Just the
very
fact that the
empowering.
fingerprints are like, what was your word for it? The transpersonal aspect,
Personal aspect. Yeah.
and then the hands themselves and the position. It's just, wow. You could probably go on for a while.
We could talk about you for the next week straight without stopping.
But we have to stop. Yeah.
But these are we hit the main, you know, I focus, even in an hour session, we can't we don't, you know, we can't cover everything, but it really, we're themes of things that are working together. And so we really we looked at your themes, your core themes that you're working
and
with.
what a bonus that was for me. I was just saying, you know, can we give people an example? And he said, well, how about you? And and you know, you hit it right on the head. I am so thirsty for information. I just want to know.
Yeah, well, you're that illuminator type. You want to do all that hot thinking, all that excited, passionate thinking about things. So,
and I appreciate hooking up with someone else who also has this desire to serve in this way, like you do. And I want to thank you so much.
thank you.
And do stay around. Michelle's going to take you into the back room, but
Okay.
then I'd like to, you know, we spoke a little bit at the beginning. Wonderful. So I do want to add one other thing, and that is, you know, she nailed it. I am a healer, and I am a healer because I have received what's called Tao Healing Hands. It's a transmission. It's called hands plural because there's more than one person, but it goes into one of your hands. It's an energy transmission. And I remember when I received it the first time, the transmitter said, you keep your eyes, you know, close your eyes and keep them closed. And then he said, transmission, really loudly. I had more PTSD back then, so I jerked a little bit. But then it was like, you know, he said again, keep your eyes closed for a minute and just feel it. No, I had to open my eyes and see what was going on with my hand. I opened my eyes and my hand was the same old hand that I'd had for, you know, 40 something years. But I could feel the difference. I had no third eye or, you know, spiritual vision or whatever they call it. I couldn't see, like now I can see the energy lines around my hands just easily. But, you know, that's also been 10 or 12 years. But the Tao Healing Hands gives a person the ability to be a conduit. And one of my favorite sayings is, you know, I don't do it. It's sorcery. Source. Source. It comes through me. It's not me. It comes from a source. And it's the same with everybody. So there's I'm going to ask our engineer, our producer, she put the link up on the screen, but that was way too, there it is again. I'm going to ask for her to put that over in the chat room. The 5 levels of creation is a whole teaching for an hour by itself. But when you go to that website, it'll give you the whole background. Most people, well, at least half, I think more than that, they are interested in the Tao Healing Hands because they want to heal themselves. I certainly did. That was why I received it. The second layer is it's like you can't give somebody a drink of water until your cup has got something in it. So once you aren't so thirsty anymore, once you're not parched, then you want to help somebody else. And so the Tao Healing Hands program is broken into 3 parts. The first is how to heal yourself. And it's really amazing. For one day, you don't have to spend 6 years learning and memorize symbols. For $150 and one day, 7-8 hours, you have the ability to heal yourself. You've got the empowerment you're not doing it, but you're co-creating it. You're opening it. The second level, if you want to heal others, ideally every family would have a Tao Healing Hands practitioner in it to deal with the stuff that, you don't need to go to urgent care for a splinter like that or whatever it is, sore throats. Mine's starting to say I want a cough drop or something. So I'll have to give myself a Tao Healing Hands transmission. The third level is when you want to do so much more. One of the things that just happens really well with me is I can do home blessings, and even remotely. Did one the other day for somebody. I live in Portland, Oregon, and they were, I don't know how many 100 miles away, down at the beach. Another one for a woman that was in California. And, all over literally you can do it all over the world. And there's much more. So rather than, talk to you about it, go check it out. Cruise through it if you like. If you're interested, send an email. So until next week, when we have another fascinating person, I'm Terry McGill, and this is Who's Your Neighbor? So until next week, good night, good day, good morning, wherever in the world you are.